bringing down the World Trade Center, shattering the western wing of the Pentagon, and downing an airliner in a Pennsylvania field, this day will be remembered as one of the most devastating in our nation's history. Many first responders suffer ailing health or have passed from the long-term effects of that day. Their survivors live with the daily reminder of September 11th. During a time where our country is grappling with divisiveness and uncertainty, now more than ever, it serves as a reminder as a nation we must stand united, knowing that together we must continue to fight for justice, freedom, and democracy. That divided, we fall. Let it be said on this Patriot Day that we shall win. While we gather to remember those lost in the attacks, the global war on terror continues, securing liberty at home and abroad. As our troops continue to serve in combat zones like Iraq and Afghanistan, patrolling dangerous terrain, weathering bullets, IEDs, and extreme temperatures, they are dismantling the terror networks that threaten peace and security worldwide. We are indebted to them for their willingness to protect our country and to their families who share in their sacrifice. God bless our armed forces, and God bless America. This Patriots Day, I'm honored to share with you stories from our members and other veterans from that day.
I remember waking up on 9/11. My roommate, remember him pounding on my door. Bro, gotta get up, look at the TV. First tower had been hit.
We came into school, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. The buildings got hit pretty much right away. I mean, it was first period.
And I ran to my neighbors, turned on the TV and saw the second plane hit the second tower. And that's when I knew it wasn't an accident.
One memory that I'll never forget is on the way home from the high school to my house, looking up and seeing fighter jets in the air.
You know, there was like a fighter wing mobilizing over my head in urban Portland.
When I looked up and saw these fighters flying over New York City protecting us, it was this visceral feeling of being protected by something bigger than, you know, us as people.
We were in disbelief. We're like, I can't believe this just happened.
The heightened threat that everyone was feeling was like, what's next? You know, and then of course the Pentagon was hit, and the plane that was taken down in a field in Pennsylvania. Nobody
knew where their parents were. Nobody knew what was going on. It was absolute pandemonium.
I'm an Army Ranger. I'm a Chief Public Affairs Officer. I'm a guy that is perfectly suited for this moment. I just thought, what the hell am I doing out of uniform? So I enlisted.
I was 17. I had to have both my parents sign off on it, and I joined the Navy.
I knew instantaneously when the towers came down I needed to help somehow.
Within 2 months of that, I was first in Afghanistan in January of 2003.
We were there in New York at the site by the morning of the 13th.
My guidance counselor and I had a very kind of special relationship. You know, I would have trouble paying attention sometimes in class and things like that. And I was always interested in making films. She was always trying to help me, you know, better myself and help me get to the next stage of whatever I was trying to do.
By the time we got to the actual edge of the pile, the firefighters that had been there from the very first moment that it happened, their eyes were bleeding because of the fiberglass particles in the air.
One of the first pieces of art that my now 26-year-old son drew in second grade was a picture of planes hitting buildings. It's hard for service members to go and serve, but it's unquestionably harder for family members to support that service member.
My guidance counselor's brother, who was the chief firefighter of all of New York City, was killed in the command center that was underneath the buildings when it collapsed.
When you're not a service member, but you're a family member of a service member that has made multiple combat deployments or made whatever the nature of their service was, they served, you understand something differently than everybody else. You know, I've got a disability, so it's like Cal State and UC schools are free for my kids. Everyone says, oh, man, that's really easy for you. It's like, no, it's not easy. Oh yeah, my dad could go away and like not come back.
Military personnel respond to run towards the sound of gunfire. I was in a unique position in that I literally had lived less than a mile away from the World Trade Center. One of the things that we discovered right away was they didn't have a map. There was no map of the actual complex, which was crazy. You know, somehow I found myself leading the team underground.
While all her other students coming to her and talking about all their aspirations for different colleges, and I walked into her office and I said, you know, I think I'm going to join the Navy.
We were all driven to try and find someone alive. We were actually going through the wall of one store into the next store, kind of burrowing through.
I was around stuff blowing up left and right. I've been around tons of dead people, and it's not something that goes away.
It was a war zone. You know, people had to sacrifice for others. Things that happened in battle happened in Lower Manhattan on 9/11.
Eventually we got down to the garage and we did identify some of the first responders that were deceased. Whenever someone's body was identified, they would make a huge effort to honor the removal of that person. We would have thousands of people working and they would stop for a moment as they removed a body.
On that day, America was attacked. Thousands of people died.
I'd heard that there was a memorial area at a place called Union Square. New Yorkers of the New York Health Department had used the Armory as a place where people could come and put the photos of their loved ones up along the walls as a way to identify who was missing. I remember walking through the square. Of course, I'm all dirty. I hadn't taken a shower for days. I'm coated with dirt and sweat, and my boots are all taped up with duct tape because, you know, the rebar would tear up your boots pretty quickly. And I had, you know, heavy leather Army issue boots on, but it was pretty apparent I had just come from the World Trade Center site. And coming towards me was a firefighter, and he looked the same way, and we're passing. And it was the craziest experience ever because he and I just like literally grabbed each other and we were both crying and slapped each other on the back. You know, we can get through this. Never met this dude in my life. And I'll never forget it.
What we saw in New York City that day, it's something that inspired me to join the military and then also use my military career to come back into the world of the arts. All Broadway shows, all 23 theaters were back up 2 days later, 48 hours after 9/11.
I'm one of the lucky ones. You know, I got reconnected with my high school sweetheart 31 years later, and I came back to LA. And I got married a year ago, and I've got a positive disposition and a positive outlook on life.
My guidance counselor, her name was Mrs. Doherty. Her son went to NYU film school and became a filmmaker, and that was something I always had a dream to do. And after 6 years in the Navy, I ended up getting out and going back to New York and going to NYU Film School. And going back and telling her that, and she was nothing but proud.
A smaller population than ever before of the American citizenry is serving. That means less and less families are supporting those people.
I think the more people that live in this country that have served it, the better.
I am grateful for having the opportunity to serve others on 9/11/2001. We want to learn from our history and do better the next time.
We're now in the longest war in America's history. You know, 9/11 was now 19 years ago. Is this going to get better for future generations? You know, what's the next fight?
You know, there was something about 9/11 that brought the country together. You know, it brought us all to like one kind of unifying mission.
I'm concerned about the future. You know, I can't see in my lifetime where we've been more divided. Divisions in politics and radical elements of society with their agendas that are keeping America from becoming whole again.
I think part of my learning process since 9/11 is understanding the hatred that exists in the world and understanding why it exists. It doesn't come out of nowhere.
Through this pandemic, we saw doctors and nurses risking their lives to try to save others. I see hope in that camaraderie, that selflessness and sacrifice that first responders show time and again.
There's this resilience in people who can take something negative and take something awful and terrible that happens and turn it into a positive. The Venn diagram of Broadway and the military is resiliency. The show must go on. You must complete the mission.
I think the main thing to remember as we come up on this anniversary is that simple point that never have so few given so much for so many.
And I hope that we can solve the challenges that we're facing today.
Organizations like the American Legion are therefore vitally important for that reintegration and that community, that sense of belonging to something that matters. Because so few of us have been in uniform. And so if there's anything that 9/11 really means to me, it means sacrifice, it means camaraderie, it means coming together.